I'm Peter Kerr, and I'm running for the Kentucky State House of Representatives. I want to talk to you for a second about welfare. I believe that welfare shows some of the best attributes of our Commonwealth, a heart for those who are hurting. But at the same time, it's becoming far too burdensome, far too bureaucratic, and indeed, we end up perpetuating poverty instead of helping people out of it. I have some plans to change all of that. Specifically, what I think we need to do is divide the poor into two categories. One category I call the aspiring poor. These are the people who just need a little bit of money to get by as they're looking for another job. For those people, the current policies in place work just fine. But there's another kind of poor that is very deep-rooted in Kentucky, and it's the perpetual poor. Often it's generation after generation who are living off of the government's money. These people, I believe, need something more than just a check. They don't need just a handout. What they really need is a hand up, and we need to figure out ways to give that to them. I have one policy I'd like you to consider. What we could do is, instead of paying those people directly from the government's coffers, we should pay to nonprofits or even churches so that those agencies could develop relationships with the poor. Because through relationship, we can pick people up, get them employed, and get them back into the system. You say that might be impossible, that maybe it's pie in the sky. So let me tell you a quick story in my own life. When I was 23 years old, I actually decided I was going to do an experiment. And I went down where I knew there were some homeless people, and I picked one up on a Friday night and took him to my house. I told him he was going to live with me for 2 weeks, and that I was trusting him. And that if he would trust me, and that he wouldn't run away, and he wouldn't do anything that he wasn't supposed to do, that we'd get back on his feet again. I had to pay, of course, for his room and board for about 2 to 3 weeks when he stayed with me. I paid a little bit over $400 to get his van out of impoundment, because he was living in his van before it got impounded and he became truly homeless. But other than that, it wasn't all that expensive. I have to tell you, the truth is, when I left on Monday, just leaving him unsupervised, I had to wonder if I was going to have a VCR, if I was going to have my television or my computer when I came back home. But they were there. He was willing to come into a relationship with me that we developed over the weekend to see if we couldn't get him back on his feet again. In fact, after 2 weeks of working with him, going to church with him, giving him counseling, buying him some clothes so he could do an interview, helping him with his resume, getting some contacts for him, he got a job. 6 months later, he actually had a job and left my apartment after about 3 weeks. And 6 months later, he emailed me and told me that he had a fiance, that his life was on track, that everything was great, and he was very excited. We can help people change if we develop relationships with them. If all we're doing for them is giving them a government handout, there's no way things are going to change. We'll simply perpetuate poverty. I also believe that if you're going to take money from the government, you should do some work. You should do 20 hours of volunteer work or maybe 20 hours of education. But you should not get a check from the government and do nothing. We can no longer afford to carry people on our backs like that. We must change the system and do so with a heart. My name is Peter Kerr. I'm running for the State House of Representatives. Please join me to move Kentucky forward.